Something that raised eyebrows recently was the arrangement made over the Chagos Islands, a remote British territory in the Indian Ocean. The 7 islands lie nearly 1,400 miles from the African island of Mauritius. They are closer, only 1,200 miles, from Sri Lanka in southwest Asia. They make up what is currently known as the British Indian Ocean Territory, or Biot. Mauritius, which the Chagos Islands were governed from, and the Seychelles were part of the French Empire, but were ceded to the British in the Treaty of Paris of 1814. They had been militarily seized in 1810, 1786 and 1794 respectively. Seychelles and Mauritius were ruled as separate colonies from 1903. Mauritius got independence from the UK in 1968, but not before Britain had relieved the Mauritians of the Chagos Islands, giving $3 million for them in 1965. That's £49 million today. They also split 3 islands from the Seychelles, and together with the 7 Chagos Islands, this formed the Biot. The Seychelles gained independence in 1976, and those 3 islands were returned. The UK wanted to create an Anglo-American military base on one of the Chagos Islands, Diego Garcia. All of the land on the Biot was owned by the company that ran the coconut plantations, which were the area's main industry. No natives owned anything. The UK purchased this company for £660,000, meaning they now had full control of the islands. Shamefully, the British evicted the 2,000 Chagos natives and sent many of them to Mauritius. Since the 1980s, Mauritius has claimed the islands belong to it, despite the British purchase in 1965. I don't condone what the British and Americans did, and they should at least have allowed the natives to stay on the other islands if they wanted to. This was a different time, though, when the British Empire and the tactical concerns of the Second World War were in recent memory. Cold War realities also necessitated doing anything to give the West the upper hand. The Americans made even worse moves in the South Pacific. In 1971, the land for the Diego Garcia base was leased to America, who built the facility. Named Camp Thunder Cove, it is used as a naval base and an airfield for long-range bombers, with a small contingent of British military also present. The initial lease was for 50 years, but in 2016 it was agreed the Americans would stay until 2036. Since 1965, the UN have refused to give their blessing to British control of the Chagos archipelago. In 2019, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, recognised the Mauritian claim, urging Britain to give the islands up. The poor treatment of the Chagosian natives aside, why should Mauritius have the islands? The actual Chagosians have not been consulted at all, and continue to be cut out of the loop, despite what David Lammy has claimed in Parliament. If you advocate the British pulling out, should the Chagosians not run their homeland? The Conservatives, until quite recently, did not want to obey the UN and ICJ demands. It was only in 2022, under Sunak and Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, later David Cameron, that proper negotiations began. The Foreign Office made some headway, but it was reported in December 2023 that the Defence Secretary had blocked the discussions from continuing. As a result, the negotiations were abandoned. Perhaps this was because of fears from growing Chinese influence in the region, or perhaps because the election was coming.